It happened a couple of weeks before you came. The shepherds of Tekoa told it to the shepherds of Bethlehem, who told it to ours. I think in a few days, the story must have been repeated several times all over Jerusalem until it reached the mountains of Ephraim. By this time, the shepherds of Galilee must have heard about it. His name was David, like the other shepherd who later became our king. He lived nearby in Tekoa, a village by the south. It was there, they say, that the famous prophet Amos, who had a lot to say, was born. But this David was neither king nor prophet. He was only a shepherd, tending a herd of these sheep.
Go, go. It's getting dark, little rascals. It's time to go home. Go, let no one be left behind. Straight ahead. Go.
Every day at dusk, the shepherd did his thing, bring back the sheep to the fold. It was not an easy thing, mind you. They say that every path has its puddle. That's why, every time it got dark and the sheep had to cross the great ravine, David would strike the stones with his staff. The little animals, already familiar with the sound, passed quietly. They knew their shepherd was just ahead of them, leading them on the right path.
Little Flo, Black Wolf, Dopey, Lewis, Cole, everyone is here. I left with 40 sheep, and with 40 I have returned.
Upon reaching the fold, David stood near the gate, counting his sheep. He gave each one a name which he never mixed up with anyone else. This David knew his flock like he was their mother, and so did the sheep. They knew him from 7 miles away. Well, it happened that in that same fold, 2 other shepherds kept their flocks.
How was your day, David? Were you lucky?
Indeed I was, Cyrus. I passed by Eagle's Ravine, and boy, my little rascal had a banquet. You should have seen their bulging bellies. They'll sleep better than you and I, but they deserve it. Think of all the things they give us. Milk, wool, cheese. It's only fair that we work for them too, going up and down the hills. That's how we're at peace with them. My little rascals are like children feasting on candy in that vast green valley. You should have seen them.
No, I'd rather not. These animals are better off than we are. You say, it's fair, it's fair. Tell me, is it fair that they come fully stuffed, while we have nothing but a few pieces of dates and a small slice of cheese? I didn't think that the job of a shepherd was this bad.
Who told you to start shepherding, Nato?
No one, but I have no choice. I couldn't find anything better. Let me tell you this. I swear by this mole on your bald head, Cyrus, that as soon as I can, he'll be goodbye to you forever. I'm sick and tired of going up and down the hill and having to milk the animals.
Yeah, and all this for 4 cents? I too am tired of this. Who needs all these sheep?
And their master, too.
These sheep aren't yours. That's why you talk about them this way. If they were your own, you'd feel affection for them.
Cyrus and Nato were shepherds who were hired for a fee. The flocks they tended belonged to 2 big businessmen of Tekoa. Since they did not own the sheep, and the work of a shepherd was heavy, these 2 did not work very hard. One did his job reluctantly, while the other maliciously. It was the opposite with David. Those 40 sheep were his treasure, and he loved them.
Hey, friends, keep right on cursing the animals while you eat their cheese. As for me, I'm going to bed, for I have to be up at dawn. I want to bring my little rascals to Bethlehem, where the pastures are supposed to be the best.
And the snakes are on the lookout.
Well, I always have my stick ready. Besides, my eyes are open, so I don't think there's any snake that can outwit me. So, may you dream of the Messiah's banquet for your happiness.
The sun had not yet risen, but David was already on his toes while his friends had not awakened from their sleep. Every morning, he would get up early and fill his sack with bread and cheese and his canteen with wine. Then he would tie his sack to his back and slip his sling into his pocket. Holding his staff well, he would set out to work.
Go, go. Today we have a good pasture and plenty of water everywhere. Daisy, don't go astray. Whitey, come on.
One night, the howling of the wolves was heard in the village of Tekoa. All the sheep were scared because they smelled danger.
Curses! They have sharp fangs and swords, with eyes burning like ember.
How many?
10! They killed 10!
What can I do? What can I do? If I ran up the mountain and the sheep that could
It was almost night. Suddenly they came and
How
attacked the
many?
flock, and
I didn't count them. There were many.
At night, the wolves howled on top of the mountains. Then they descended into the village and began the carnage, killing several sheep. The shepherds of Tekoa were very alarmed, David more than anyone else.
We've got to do something, guys. Don't you think so?
No way. Don't you know it's the wolves who are the masters? You can't beat them.
Baloney. If we get their leader, the rest would lose heart and go away and stop killing our sheep. The trouble is, we are a bunch of cowards.
Cowards? Well, yeah. So what? Look, I'm not risking my neck for these animals. You do it if you like, since you love them so much. As a matter of fact, you're beginning to look like them.
That night, David did not sleep on the straw mattress in his usual place. He stayed outside, leaning on one of the beams of the fold. The young man smelled something.
Let them come. Let them come. They'll learn who I am.
After the first night watch, the wolves ceased to howl.
Well, well. Their voices must have grown hoarse from so much howling.
After a while, David's eyes closed. It was a matter of seconds. Two huge black wolves leapt over the wall of the fold and struck like lightning at the sheep.
The wolf! The wolf! Run!
Stay here, you guys, and let's face it. With the three of us, we can do it.
You do it, you fool! I'm getting out of here!
David's two companions started to run across the field, leaving him alone with the wolves and all the sheep milling around terrified, not knowing where to go, trying to flee from the attack of the beasts, but they couldn't. Suddenly, some of them fell bleeding, their bodies ripped open. David could wait no longer. From his bag, he took out a sharp knife, gripped it firmly with his hand, and when one of the wolves leapt over one of the sheep, he lunged at the wolf and planted the knife deep into its heart. The animal turned around and fell dead at his feet.
Cursed beast, you have finally paid for what you've done.
The other wolf, smelling the blood of his companion, left the sheep, eyes burning with rage, to attack David. The two engaged in a deadly fight, rolling over and over on the ground. The terrified sheep stayed close to the walls of the fold, running in confusion to all sides.
Easy, little rascals. Don't be afraid. This beast won't come out of here alive.
The second wolf roared as he planted his fangs deep into the shepherd's arm. David, gasping, plunged the knife again and again into the back of the beast, who only became more enraged as he continued being wounded. David, who was almost out of breath, succeeded in landing the knife right into the middle of the animal's chest. The beast, foaming with rage, mustered all his remaining strength and hurled himself at the young man's neck, biting it desperately. It was indeed sad. The shepherd's blood and the wolf's mixed on the earth and saturated it, so the fight finally ended.
What a daring guy he is, this David. Imagine him fighting these beasts.
And such huge animals they were. This guy really fought like a brave man.
Tell me, Nato, who would ever think of fighting two wolves at the same time?
2 wolves plus the other 200 wolves who leapt over the wall? This David had plenty of guts to fight them to save his flock. See how he left them stiff as death?
Yeah, but it cost him his life, too. He's a fool, and that's what he is.
Call him whatever you wish, but thanks to him, the sheep have been saved. Don't forget that, Cyrus. The sheep have been saved, thanks to him.
The story spread from mouth to mouth, from shepherd to shepherd, and now you know it too. He's a fool, all right, but a valiant one. He gave his life for his sheep, his little rascals, as he called them. Don't you think the life of this man is worth talking about? Many years later, when Peter and Andrew, my brother James, and the rest of us announced to our countrymen the good news of Jesus who gave his life for his people, we were reminded of this story of the Good Shepherd, as told to us by Lazarus in Bethany, when the great feast of the Passover was almost near.
Lesson about the Good Shepherd, which is only found in the Gospel of John, becomes a real event in this scene as narrated by Lazarus. There is a dividing line between human beings, those who are willing to work for life and generously offer their own when the time comes, and those who protect life for themselves. Those who lose life in this way gain it. Those who offer it become a fountain of life for others. Let's take a closer look at shepherding.
In Israel, the small cattle owner
farmers were their own shepherds. And their flocks were composed of many animals. The owners hired other shepherds who were paid in cash and in the produce of the flock. The principal task of a shepherd is to look for pastures and drinking troughs for the animals and to protect them from hustlers and wild animals. The tools of a shepherd are the pole, the staff, and the sling. The sling serves as a weapon against harmful animals and is also used to gather the sheep into a specific place. In the Bible, the care shown by the shepherd for his flock is a symbol of God's care for his people, as in Psalm 23 that we read earlier today.
The sheep of Palestine have white tails, rich in oil. Their fleece is curly and yields a kind of wool that is best for garments. The shearing period is one of great rejoicing for the shepherds. In general, these sheep yield white wool, and the milk is excellent. The rams are most valued for food and religious sacrifices in the temple. Biblically speaking, the sheep is considered a kind of meat animal. In the gospel, the flock is a frequent used symbol to refer to people who are like sheep without a shepherd, and which serve as criticism for the religious leaders of Israel, the unscrupulous priests who are unjust and materialistic.
The wolves of Palestine are lighter in color than those of the other Mediterranean countries. During the day, they hide in caves or in deserted areas, and at night come down and attack the flocks. They're known as the terror of the shepherds. In the New Testament, the false prophets are compared to wolves, and the enemies of justice as well. In order to symbolize the peace of Messiah times, the prophets use images where the wolf is no longer considered a menace.
In the image of the Good Shepherd, Jesus gives us a picture of the Good Shepherd, who does not exploit his sheep, but rather serves them. He knows them and cares for them. The sheep are not a burden to him, the meaning of his life. He has no hidden motives. His only concern is the life of his sheep, that they might have abundant pastures and possibilities for growth.
In his lesson about the Good Shepherd, Jesus referred to him as the gate through which the sheep enter and leave. This image actually refers to a relationship between God and Christians. Jesus is the Good Shepherd, but to be a Christian is not to be a sheep in a flock without a face or personality, where everyone bows the head, where no one voices out opinions, and everyone is submissive or insecure. This flock is a community of free men and women, responsible and free, and capable of loving one another as they know they are loved by the shepherd. Let us always listen for the voice of our Good Shepherd as we seek to follow him, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.